National minority councils in Serbia. National minority councils are one of the core features of Serbia's minority protection system. According to the Constitution, they are a channel for persons belonging to national minorities to exercise the right to self-governance. However, the Constitution is silent about their status, so the nature of these entities has been subject to interpretation and remains vague. The law defines national minority councils as organizations to which specific public powers are transferred, but they remain in a conceptual limbo between public institutions and citizens' associations. Usually, they are labeled as bodies of minority cultural autonomy. However, the regulations do not use the term autonomy, and there is no basis in the Council's competences to consider them as fully fledged autonomous bodies. The councils are centralized bodies, whereby persons belonging to one national minority can establish one centralized council. There are no regional or local levels, so although some councils form regional or local offices, they have no legal significance. This centralized model often poses a challenge to dispersed national minorities and raises questions around the principles of adequate representation as well as democratic control. The Serbian model is rather liberal when it comes to establishing national minority councils, and over time their number has increased. In September 2022, there were 23 national minority councils, including the Jewish community, which has a slightly special status. In order to establish a national minority council, a community needs to comprise at least 300 individuals, as registered in the population census, and meet the criteria defined by law as to what a national minority actually is. Although the system seems liberal, there have been examples where the establishment of national minority councils have been refused. For instance, Yugoslavs were rejected because they were considered a different type of identity, while Aromanians were rejected due to their low number. As a rule, seats on these councils are elected by direct popular vote. Alternatively, they can be elected in indirect elections by electors, in cases where insufficient numbers of people are enrolled on the special voting register. The right to participate in the elections is granted only to individuals belonging to the respective national minority, and they must be on the special voting register with a one-person, one-register rule. Qualifying for entry rests on the principle of free self-identification, which happens almost automatically, with no checks pertinent to individual choice of belonging. While commendable, the process is open to misuse, and is sometimes treated with slight skepticism by minority representatives. Elections for national minority councils take place every 4 years with direct elections run by candidates' lists. One of the central questions of the electoral process has been whether minority political parties should run for national minority councils. From the very beginning, the councils have been perceived as highly political bodies, and there have been strong voices for their depoliticization. Despite some efforts in this direction, the system has remained more or less intact, and national minority councils remain heavily under party control. The competences of the councils cover 4 areas of minority self-governance: culture, education, media, and official use of minority language and script. At the core of the arrangement is the authority to establish minority institutions, or to request from the state, at all levels of governance, a transfer of founding powers over public institutions, such as minority schools, cultural institutions, and media. The latter is on the proviso that the public entity has been categorized as an institution of special interest to the national minority. Such categorization has been a contested issue, mainly due to the lack of criteria for the categorization or the question of managerial rights when more than one national minority council declares the same institution as being of special interest. The councils do have some autonomous decision-making competences, mostly restricted to self-organization. Also, the councils participate in the decision-making of the public authorities in a wide range of areas, including, for example, the development of curricula and textbooks, the protection of cultural heritage, the production of media programs in the minority language, and topographic signs. However, there is a long-held argument that the autonomous powers of the national minority councils are so narrow that they are, in fact, consultative bodies, lacking genuine decision-making autonomy. Meanwhile, there are also questions over fairness, with some believing that the very concept and powers of national minority councils are tailored according to the needs of bigger and well-organized national minorities, as opposed to the small, dispersed, or new minority communities, which struggle to perform tasks. To learn more about minority protection and cultural diversity management, visit our website at entan.org.